Hey y'all, welcome back to Poplar Creek Farm. I'm in my basement today, starting to get stuff organized and ready for seed starting. I know it's early and truthfully, I'm not starting seeds for another couple weeks, but I'm very much ready for it. I'm very much excited about it. So I need to start getting this prepped and ready, make sure I have everything I need. There are some more things I need to get. I don't have any potting soil right now, potting mix. And I'm sorry, the lighting down here is terrible. I'm in my basement. This is my grow station. If you haven't been with us long, I can fit 27, 10, 20 trays on here. So it's 9 on each row. Each of them have grow lights. The grow lights can go nice and low. We use obviously the heat mats for germination. But once the germination happens, we don't use heat mats anymore. Even though it's cool down here, it's warm enough that plants will grow, even things like peppers and stuff. So what am I growing this year? What am I starting? When am I starting things? I have kind of a timeline and kind of a plan laid out. This is a general idea. It is not an exact plan. I am not somebody who plans like really thoroughly and makes everything like very organized. But I'm going to show you a couple things I use to help me figure out when and where and all that stuff. So these are from, I printed them out online. They're from Botanical Interest. There's an indoor seed starting indoor sowing guide for vegetables and herbs and an outdoor one. It helps a lot figure out when I can start things. It also comes in the catalog. If you ever get the catalog, I pulled this out of it. So I am in upstate New York, zone 5B. That only gives you an general idea of when I'm starting things. It doesn't give you an exact time frame. So I start things based off of my estimated last frost. Now here our estimated last frost is May 11th, but truthfully, oftentimes it's a week or two after that. I know last year I started seeds in the garden on May 18th, and that was because overnight that previous night had been down in the 20s. So it's kind of, it's very much an estimate. It's just, it might be around this time. So this will give you things like 6 to 8 weeks before your estimated last frost, 4 to 6 weeks. So what you do is you take those dates, you look at when your estimated last frost is, which you can go on Google and find out. Just type in, here's my zip code, what is my estimated last frost? And it'll pull it up. Then you kind of go 4 to 6 weeks before that, 8 to 12 weeks before, whatever it is. I have all my dates written down. So basically I wrote down and this is very messy, but seed starting timeline. So February 3rd to 17th, which is 12 to 14 weeks before my last frost. February 17th to March 2nd is 10 to 12 weeks, and so on and so forth. So basically beginning of February is like the earliest I can start anything, and that will be my onions, and possibly some celery at that point. I may wait on celery for another couple weeks because technically it's not till 10 to 12 weeks before. Onions, I think, were technically 10 to 12 weeks before, but I know I need to start them sooner than that, 12 to 14 weeks, because they move out early too. Peppers, I will start beginning of March, which I'm super excited about. I'm actually going to also start some brassicas fairly early, probably around the same time, end of February, beginning of March. And then tomatoes are not until between March 30th and April 13th. What I have learned is if I start things too early, they will become leggy and I will regret it. So let's talk varieties. What am I starting? What am I growing? So the very first thing I start, like I said, will be my onions. So Sierra Blanca F1 is a hybrid white onion that I grow from Johnny Selected Seeds. I always grow white, yellow, and red. Those I have not had success with yet. Last year I tried onions and failed, but that was more due to lack of watering because we were so dry and I am on a well, and so I'm limited in how much I can actually water things. This year hopefully will be a little bit better. This one, New York Early, love it. My yellow onion also stores really well. And then my red onion is Rosa di Milan. Milano also had really good success with that. So those will be what I'm starting in beginning of February. That's the very first type of seeds I will start, and then I'll start a celery that I got from, showed it my seed unboxing video, which is my last video. It's from Baker Creek. Now let's talk peppers, because that will be we'll do some brassicas too. Actually I will be starting brassicas. That'll be the next thing after onions and celery. And basically varieties, it depends on what I have available for this, but I'm not starting a ton of brassicas because I plan on doing a lot more brassicas in the fall. I'm only going to do a few brassicas for the spring, and I'm starting them really early compared to what they're actually supposed to be started because I want them good size. When I typically start brassicas when it's recommended to start them and I move them out, by the time they are growing, it gets too warm and they bolt. So I'm going to kind of do it small, and then in the fall I'm going to do a bunch. So those will get started in like July in here. So for brassicas, I'm only doing 10 green cabbage. I'm also doing them in big pots. Normally I use my 2x2 pots from Bootstrap Farmer, but this time for those I'm going to do a 4-inch pot. It's a 4x4 pot, so that again they have room to grow and develop and not become root bound, because I want them to be really big by the time, you know, good size by the time I move them out. I'm going to start 20 broccolis, which will be like a calabrese broccoli. I'm going to start 20 Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts will go through until fall. We'll harvest those in the fall. And they do fine even through the hot summer. I'm going to start just a couple kale, like 2 kale plants. We don't eat a ton of kale, but I like to have some. And then I'm going to start 8 cauliflower. That's based off of being able to fit 10 of the 4-inch pots into a 10-20 tray. That gives me, that'll give me 6 trays of brassicas, even though it's really not that many plants. So next would be peppers. And for peppers, now I am starting, I believe it's going to be 96 total. I have 100, like, is how many, if you add up everything, it's 100. But some of them are going to my mom, and which doesn't really matter for starting. I still have to start them. So I'm going to cut down 4 of them. I'm just not sure which 4 yet. I'm going to do 15 lunchbox peppers, which are the red and yellow and orange peppers that you buy in those little bags at the grocery store. The little sweet peppers for snacking. Johnny Selected Seeds has lunchbox peppers, and I got a mixed seed packet. So I'm starting 15. It could end up being 15 red, 15 orange, 15 yellow, or it could be a variety, a mix, which I'm hoping is a mix. But it just kind of depends on what seeds I end up starting. I'm going to start 25 jalapenos. The reason I'm starting so many is we use them for salsa, obviously. And then we love cowboy candy. And this past year, my whole garden struggled pretty much. If you've been with me, you know. And so I didn't get very many jalapenos, and I got 1 jar. And we went through that really fast. So we would rather have like 20 jars of that. So I'm starting a bunch of jalapenos to be able to make a bunch of cowboy candy to preserve for the year. I'm going to start 10 banana peppers. Now, 2 of those will be for my mom. They're sweet bananas. They're not a hot banana, but I like pickling them. And I throw in some jalapenos into the pickling. And then it kind of adds a little bit of heat, but it's really good flavors too. And then I'm going to start 15 red sweet, which is California Wonder. They're just a large sweet variety. And 5 of those are going to my mom, so I'm only really getting 10. And then 15 yellow, which is Yellow Monster. And 5 of those are also going to my mom. And I will give some of these. I will also give a couple to my mother-in-law. We always give her a couple plants as well. And so she just doesn't request specific ones. I normally just bring her a couple and she's good. I'm going to start 5 Tabasco because I do want to try to make fermented hot sauce this year. Last year I had Tabasco plants, but again, my garden struggled and they produced, but they never ripened. So I'm hoping they'll get to ripening this year. I'm only starting 5 shishito plants this year because last year I started a bunch and we had shishitos, like blistered shishitos. I can't say that fast and I talk really fast. We had so many of them. We were having them like at least once a week, typically a couple times a week, and you just get sick of them after a while. I love blistered shishitos, but you can only have so many before you kind of get sick of them. And then I'm going to start 10 natapinos. My kids love natapinos. They always produce really well for me, and it's just fun having the garden. And it's also fun, like, mixing up and trying to get the kids to believe me on eating a sweet one versus a hot one. Yeah, I like playing with them with that. But that may be where I end up cutting down a couple of them to get to the 96 instead of 100. Now, tomatoes, I'm starting a lot less than normal this year. Although this number may change a little bit. Right now I'm going to start 224. 18 of those are going to my mother. And actually that's about where I wanted. I wanted about 225, so that's kind of perfect. There's probably going to be a chance that 1 or 2 of them will have 2 in it, and I can split them up to get to that 225 100%. So as much as it kills me to actually start less things, it'll be good. This is all I need. I'm doing 3 rows. They're 3 60, let's see, 64, hold on, let me do math, 64 foot rows, which is four cattle panels, four 16 feet cattle panels. It's 64 feet long, and I'm doing 3 of those rows. And so I can fit about 75, although that's really kind of packing them in close. I really, really prune them well, and so I can pack them in close. So I'm fitting about 75 in each row. So I'm going to do 60 Amish paste. Now, Amish paste are one I really love for sauces and salsa and any of my preservation methods, because it's a thick, very meaty tomato, very little seeds, very little juice. It's really helps fill a pot fast. So I'm starting 60 of those, but 6 are going to my mother. I'm going to do 3 Chadwick cherries, which is a red cherry tomato. I do want to have some red cherry tomatoes. One of those is going to my mom though. So that will be a couple, obviously a little bit less. My dad likes the red cherry tomatoes. I'm going to do 2 spoon tomatoes. Those are not for me. Those are for my daughter. She requested to grow spoon tomatoes again this year. She grew them last year in her little raised bed garden that she has, and she loved them, mostly because they're fun. And for her, that's what gardening is about right now. It's not about like producing enough food for anything specific. She's 7 and she loves fun foods, and I think it's awesome. Cucamelons are also one of her favorites, lemon cucumbers, like the really fun, different varieties. I'm going to do 1 orange accordion. I'm doing very few slicer tomatoes, just a, 1 row of slicer and, cherry tomatoes. That's all it's going to be. And then I'm having 2 rows of paste. So I'm not doing a ton. So 1 orange accordion just for myself to have some variety and to be a little bit fun with that. I'm going to do 2 Thornburn terracottas, 10 Paul Robeson. One of those is going to my mother. I love Paul Robeson. That's my favorite tomato by far. It's smoky, it's meaty, it's got a beautiful flavor, it's beautiful color, and amazing on tomato sandwiches. I'm going to do 20 Brandywine, which is a slicer, but it's a meatier slicer. It's a pinkish tomato, and it's really, really tasty. 20 Italian Heirloom, which is also a paste tomato. It is a paste tomato that looks like a slicer, honestly. But they are very meaty and very prolific typically, and grow just massive fruits. 6 of those are going to my mother. I may add a couple more of those in if I have the seeds. I only have 1 packet of seeds, so I'm going to start whatever I have. I'm hoping to get at least 20, but I may start a few more if I have more. 50 San Marzano. I swore off San Marzano. I said I'm never going to grow them again because all of them kept having this dark spot in the middle. Come to find out, that's actually a disease that affects paste tomatoes specifically, especially San Marzano, Roma, things like that. So basically, if I'm growing a paste tomato, it's going to potentially affect it because it's potentially in my soil now. And unfortunately, I didn't clean out my tomatoes well this year. I didn't take the plants out early. So more than likely it's going to be there, and I'm just going to have to deal with it over the next couple of years. And this year, at the end of this season, I will make sure to really clean out the garden so that there's no remnants of it, so it doesn't stay. If it becomes an issue where I'm not able to really harvest much because of this, I was able to still get a ton of tomatoes, a ton of San Marzano. They were very prolific. And I could cut that part out very easily. So I did oftentimes for sauces and things. If it becomes an issue where it's like every tomato I'm harvesting or whatnot, I will go a year without paste tomatoes, which will kill me. But it's something that may be necessary, or just move them, rotate them, and get them away from the area that they were. So we'll see. But I am going to start San Marzanos, even though I said I would never do them again. 20 Big Beef. It is a hybrid beef tomato from Johnny's. Also very prolific, very disease resistant. They were beautiful, kind of perfect fruits every time. Not the most spectacular flavor in the world, but I do want to have a good amount of slicers too. I do like processing slicers into my sauce. I like I like my sauce thick, but I don't want it so thick that it's more of like a paste. I want it to have some juice to it. And honestly, the slicers produce really well too. So to have some of those is great. 5 Sunrise Bumblebee. Oh, and for the 2 of the San Marzano are going to my mother, and 1 of the Big Beefs are going to my mother. 5 Sunrise Bumblebee. Those are a yellow and orange stripy cherry tomato, my favorite cherry tomato. Very sweet. I like the yellow, non-acidic type tomatoes. They taste very good to me for just snacking on. And 1 of those is going to my mom. 2 Dr. Witchies and 2 Black Beauty. Those are, again, just for me for fun. Now, Some of those will, again, some of these tomatoes will also go to my mother-in-law. So I may start an extra tray just to make sure I have enough, and then I can share the extra with everybody else. Obviously, I have a bunch of other stuff I'm growing too, and when it's not blustery out and it's extremely windy today and yucky, so I don't plan on going outside. But when it is, we will walk through the garden and talk about my garden plans for this year and how we're kind of changing some things up. We're really changing the layout of the garden, which I've talked about some in the past, and so it's kind of giving me a blank slate to start with, and I'm very excited about it. And it's only January 14th, I think. Say the 14th, or today's the 15th, 14th. And I'm ready to get my hands on the soil. I'm ready to start gardening. So it's going to be a long few months waiting, but it'll be worth the wait. And getting excited helps me know that, okay, although it's a lot of work, it's worth it because you look forward to this every year and you get excited about it every year. And yes, it's hard work. It's physical. There's days where I'm like, overwhelmed and I'm ready to be done, but I will miss it when it's not here. So I need to fully enjoy it and fully embrace it while we are in season and while we are able to garden. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Remember, we're growing today for a better tomorrow. Please like and subscribe and join me on the next one.